It's funny, today I watched, who was it? Let's see, can I do two streamers celebrating a year or their anniversary of their becoming affiliate. And I'm happy for them. They deserve it, for sure. But it makes me wonder where I would have been had things not gone the way they did. But what I think I wanted to talk about this time was I've been to two conventions. I have the nose. I've been to two furry cons. One of them is no longer functioning anymore. Somebody else, I think, took it over. Too many threats. Too many bad people. And the other one, that was actually the con that I actually had. My very first one. It was in Denver, Colorado. And I think it was called Rainforest? Or Rocky Mountain FurCon. I think that's what. Yeah, Rocky Mountain FurCon. That's what it was. Rainforest is, I think, it was Seattle Con. And I talked before about, if you don't go to a con with somebody, you're going alone. I actually had somebody that time. And we were actually very compatible, I guess, is a good way to put it. He had social anxiety just as badly as I get. Up until that point, I've just never been smart enough to walk away whenever I feel, all stressed out and everything. He taught me how to, hey, it's, you're starting to feel funny. It's time to put a stop to it. Go back to the room, take a rest, get away from people for a little bit, and then come back down and try again. And we took breaks. And it was a wonderful experience. I was able to go to the dealer's den and met some of my met some artists. Trying to remember her name. But she had a whole comic book and did a lot of nice artwork, and so I was able to buy some things right off the table. It was really cool. It was expensive, but it was cool. I remember she looked extremely tired. And didn't really at all seemed very enthusiastic that I was there, that I was a customer. We talked for a little bit about the story, and I told her, thank you very much, and I really enjoyed it. And that was also the first time I attempted to go to a rave. And that's when I learned the music is just too loud. I cannot walk into the room. I tried to walk into the room. I made it to the door. And bless this hotel for having sound dampening, because as loud as it was in there, when you walked 10 feet away, you couldn't hardly hear anything. It was very quiet. It was amazing. The sound insulation in that hotel. But I could not walk inside. The music was just hitting so hard. I felt like I was going to have a heart attack if I walked inside. And then later on, somebody was like, well, no, you're supposed to wear earplugs. Like, but didn't that defeat the... Well, I guess you could wear earplugs because you're feeling the music as much as hearing it. I just don't need to feel my music. I would rather just listen to it. That was the one good thing about Virality, is the club thing there. You could do the volume yourself, and you could just chill and listen to the music. There was a couple of times though, of course, we didn't share a room or anything. He had his own room and I had mine. But it was kind of like, if you're going to go down and get something to eat, give me a call. I'll meet up with you. He almost never did. Once we got there and got the con started, but I understand. He ran into some people there and then he wanted to hang out with, and I guess he thought I didn't want to hang out with those people. But they were also a lot younger. And, one wants to hang out with an old guy. That was also back at the time where everybody seemed to think that if you were over 25 or over 28, you had no business being a furry. You needed to grow up and move on. What they didn't know was the people that were 30 and above were the ones running the con. They were the one in charge. They were the reason why they were there. Young people can be a little ignorant sometimes. But I had a good time. It took me a lazy 2 days to get there. I could have probably done it in one day. It was about 700 and some miles. And I actually left early. It was kind of funny. Once I think they did closing ceremony at like 10 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. And after that, everybody just kind of left. And so it was like, well, I'll hang around, and there was no point in staying here till Monday. So I left early, saved a little bit on a hotel. Hotel really wasn't that expensive. I had never experienced room service before. That was that was interesting. I ordered a pizza, and this guy in a tuxedo brings it up to the door, brings it up to the room. And I tried to take the pizza from him at the door. I said, "Thank you so much." And he wouldn't give me the pizza. And I kind of just looked at it, was like, okay, I don't understand what's going on here. He says, "May I enter the room, sir?" Sure. And he came in and he put the tray down with the pizza on it on the counter. When you walked in the door, there was like a refrigerator and a sink, and he put it on the thing there. And I gave him a tip, and I said, "Thank you very much." I said, he goes, "Will that be all, sir?" And I'm like, I think so. I'm pretty sure that'll be fine. And it was really weird. It was like I couldn't get him to go. That was after I tipped him. I thought I tipped him well enough. I mean, the pizza was this amount, and I probably gave him the same price I paid for the pizza to him. So it was like it wasn't like I was under tipping. But I guess he had to bring the pizza into the room and put it down. He couldn't just hand it to me. Which was really weird. They're staring at them at the door. I was like, "Give me my pizza." He wouldn't give it to me. "May I come in, sir?" Like, if you really want to, sure, okay. After that, I just went downstairs and went to the restaurant. Didn't want to go through that again. And then I think next year there was Texas Furry Fiesta. And I had kind of gotten in with a group of local furs. Kind of local, not really. I had to drive almost 2 hours to get to their meeting place. So it wasn't like I could go every time they had a meeting. And they never seemed to have a place big enough to house everybody. The first time I was there, we went to some person's house and I ended up having to sit on the floor. But most of the people were nice, and some were kind of creepy. Some were overly affectionate with each other. With them, there was a couple that just could not keep their lips off of each other. And it was like, you're making the rest of us uncomfortable. And I think 2 people dressed up in fursuits, and that was cool to see that. But they never did get a meeting place, so the next time I went there a second time, and again, it was at this person's house, and there's like 15, 20 people. And again, it's like people fighting for a place to sit. I ended up on the floor again. And the floor had clearly not been vacuumed in a long time. And they had dogs. And you know how you go into a house? I mean, I love animals. Animals are wonderful. But it just seems like everybody that seems to have dogs, they don't clean up. I swear there were fleas jumping on me. And I just felt, and the floor was, clearly hadn't been vacuumed. And there started becoming, well, there was a reason why we didn't have a meeting place. I come to find out the furry group had kind of split off, and one person that wanted to be in charge got kind of voted out, and nobody else wanted that person in charge, so somebody else took over the group. You know how you do. You vote for the person that organizes everything. Well, he didn't like that. He called the establishment. This was the first time I went up. He called the establishment where we were supposed to have our little get together, and it was supposed to be a public, fursuiting, and there was, kids were expecting them to be there, I guess. This is what I understood. And this person called the establishment and made up some horrible story about the person in the fursuit being on an adult website doing adult things, which really freaked out the owner of the business. And I'd walked in there just in time. Now I didn't know anybody there, so I just kind of walked in. It was a restaurant that had like a big like meeting area. And I walked in there in just enough time to hear this lady say, "No, you have to leave. You have to leave. You have to get out. I don't want you here anymore. Take all your stuff and go. Get out." And I recognized one of them, the one person that had invited me to the group. He left. He walked out the door. And I was like, what? So that was like, red flag. I should have just ordered some food, which I did order food. I was there eating it because I didn't know that they were, I didn't know what was going on. So I, without knowing anything, I just walked into the restaurant, ordered some food and sat down. Figured that when everybody started showing up, I was like, oh, that's where the meeting is. And well, everybody got kicked out. They all got in their cars and they left. And I'm sitting there at the restaurant going, what? And I finished my meal. And I'm wearing a silly shirt that's got a wolf on the front with a tennis ball in his mouth. And I put my tray away and I leave. And of course, I go out in the parking lot. There's nobody there. There's nobody in the parking lot. Everybody's gone. And I figured, well, I guess they got kicked out. So, which, I've heard of that happening before. People get, but people hear rumors, and they panic and so anyway, just as I was leaving, my phone rings, and it's the guy that had invited me. Said, we're having the party over, we moved a party. We had a little incident, but we're doing it over in some guy's house. Here's the address. Come find us. And right there, I should have said, no, I think I'm going to go home. I drove 2 hours to get there and then run into this incident. Anyways, I didn't go home. I found the house, and of course there's the cars are parked. It's a tiny little house in a packed neighborhood. It's a really condensed neighborhood. And so you can only fit 2 cars in the driveway, and there were cars parked all up and down the street. And you could tell they were all going to the one house, and they were just parked everywhere. And I thought, oh no. I was like, maybe I should just go. But I didn't. I stayed. Found my way inside. They were very welcoming, very nice people. They did the fursuiting thing. I can understand the person not expecting to have company over that didn't really have a chance to clean the house up, didn't have any chairs. So that's how I ended up on the floor. It was the second time that they knew people were coming, and they didn't clean the floors, and they didn't have enough chairs, and they didn't have, there was no food. There was nothing. And it was kind of like, who's organizing this? You're starting the meet, the get together at 5-6 o'clock, and you're planning on having it go all the way to 10 o'clock. Shouldn't there be food? I kind of thought there should be food. Something. A barbecue. Do a grill thing outside. Nope, there was none of that. It was kind of like if you didn't bring your own food, you just went hungry. And since I didn't know, I didn't eat before going. And the second meeting, there was some drama. The person that had called, that invited me, was kind of the one in charge. Not quite, maybe number 2. But he had a boyfriend who was extremely jealous. And they fought the entire time we were there. And he would storm out of the room and go to the bedroom, and he would sit there for a while, and then we would we were talking about doing a community thing, a fundraiser or something, and he would storm out of the room, push past people, go into the kitchen, do something, and then storm back through, and they just making a presence, making everybody uncomfortable. And then there was another person there that was extremely paranoid that if his workplace found out that he was a furry, they would fire him. And I think he was a teacher. I'm not sure. I'm like, a furry is a hobby, not a lifestyle. Somebody should fire you for a hobby. So that was a whole thing going on, because they were trying to do a fundraiser and stuff, and this guy was like, well, I can't be blah, 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 because I don't want to, if my work finds out I'm a part of this group, I'll get fired. And then, of course, that one other couple there they couldn't keep their lips off of each other. They were over there. The whole thing was very uncomfortable with the two boyfriends fighting and the one couple basically having sex in the corner. The one guy being upset that, he thought he was going to lose his job because they're going to find out because of the other person that, they left the group that had turned them in to and got them kicked out of that one restaurant. He was afraid that person was going to out him and get him fired from his job. And it was just this whole thing. And I'm like, what did I got myself into here? And that was just the second trip, my second time up there. And so anyways, I was working nights at the time. So, when it became, 10, 11 o'clock at night, I said, I'm going to go home. And they were like, oh, no, you need to, you live too far away. You should stay here and spend the night. And I'm like, no, it's fine. I'm going to go. Well, we don't want you getting, falling asleep on. I said, I work nights. I'm fine. It'll be fine. I'm not spending the night in a dirty, flea-infested house. I'm sorry. I didn't say that. I was trying to be polite. But there was dirt in the floor. And I mean, like, and so I was kind of grossed out by that and all the stuff that was going on. It was just like, I just don't need to be all the red flags, It's like, I need to not be here. I did stay pretty late. There was some good people because the group kind of broke up and some people stayed and those people were actually really, really nice. So we ended up having a really long talk. Just, but anyways, that was the next time they had a meeting. I was kind of like, I don't know if I want to drive 2 hours all the way up there to go through all this again, all the drama. And that was also, I was working like 60, 70 hours a week. Yeah, I think I was working 70 hours a week. So I was working 6 days. And then I had 1 day off, and it just happened to be the day that I could have gone up there. And I was like, you know what? Hey, look, I can't make it. Work has got me working so hard. And it's 2 hours up there and 2 hours back. That's my whole day shot. It's everything. Like, I can't make it. Well, I think they took offense to that. And when Furry Fiesta popped up, this happened between going to the con in Denver and Furry Fiesta. So I met this other little group, and I was like, well, they're going to Furry Fiesta. Well, I'll see them over there. Furry Fiesta wasn't but 2 hours, another 2 hours from my house, but I could go there. I could go there for the weekend to spend the night at the hotel. Pretty cheap. And there was actually several people that, when a con's coming up, are you going? Are you going? Are you going? You should go. You should go. And when I mentioned I was going to Texas Furry Fiesta, they were like, oh, we need to get together. That sounds good. You're always typing and talking to these people online. It'd be nice to meet them face to face. Like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And when I got to Furry Fiesta, I ran into the group that I had, had met. I had been to 2 of their meetings, and they would not talk to me. In fact, the guy that originally invited me was wearing his fursuit, and he actually pushed me aside, pushed me out of the way so that he could walk on and leave. Because I was trying to wave up high so he could see me. Because, the fursuits, I've got a lot of blind spots in them. So I know he saw me. And of course he saw me. He pushed me out of the way. And I was like, is he really that upset that I didn't make it to a 3rd meeting after all the crap that went on the 1st and the 2nd time? Are you kidding me? There was even more drama going on. He broke up with the boyfriend that was causing the problem and started dating somebody else that had AIDS, and then he got AIDS from that person, and it was just like, what? And I was telling somebody else about this, and they were like, well, you need to get away from that fur group. That is not a good group to hang out with. And I said, I know. It's like, holy crap. Every time I go over there, it's some horrible drama thing going on. And then it just confirmed it when he pushed me out of the way. It was like, yeah, you're mad at me because I didn't show up. And then there was supposed to be another person there that we were supposed to meet in the lobby of the hotel at 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock in the morning. We were going to get together and go out for, late breakfast, early lunch. I got there at 9, so I was a little early. And I sat down in the lobby, and I waited. I knew the other guy wasn't going to come because he's already, he doesn't want to have anything to do with me, so that's fine. These other people did, or they said they did. And this is kind of why what happened last weekend at Virality kind of stung a little harder than it probably should have. 10 o'clock rolls around. There's nobody coming. Nobody. I mean, I got to see, gosh, what was her name? She was the angel dragon with the beep squeaker. She had the beep squeaker, and she was the very first one that did it. The very first angel dragon, and she was running around, getting donations for. There was a charity thing she was getting the donations for, and she had a bucket that had the lid on it with a slit, and you're supposed to drop quarters and stuff inside. But people would drop dollar bills, but the dollar bills wouldn't go through the slot. So she would look at it, and she'd take her finger and she'd poke at the dollar bill, trying to get it to go in the hole. And she played around with it for a while. She made a whole ordeal about trying to push the dollar bill through the hole. It was funny. It was funny watching her. And then I realized it was now 11 o'clock. I'm starting to get hungry. Some more fursuiters started showing up. And I just kind of... there's that one TikTok where you see the See the furry sitting across the room staring at the other guy. That little short video, and the other guy's starting to feel uncomfortable because this guy's staring at him. That's kind of like, maybe he's not staring at you. Maybe he's just got that 1,000-yard stare because somebody promised they'd meet him and they're not there. And so he's just there staring off into space, and you just happen to be in his line of sight. But that wasn't the bit. That wasn't the, it was, the video the joke was a little different. The other person finally came up and scared the other guy, and he ran off. But I think the moral of that was, don't be creepy. Don't stare at people. Get off of your butt and go say hello if you want to say hello. But I watched the fursuiters and bounce around, and I recognized some, some pretty popular fursuiters, like Telephone. That was her name, Telephone. I think there was Telephone and Radio. They were both there. And then, I saw so many that I recognized, from YouTube videos and stuff. And it was really neat to see them bouncing around. And then I realized it was 12 o'clock, almost 12:30. And I don't want to get up and leave, because what if they're just running a little late? 2.5 hours late now. There was a Starbucks, and I thought, I'll go see if they have coffee, but maybe they'll have something else I can get, maybe a muffin, or hopefully maybe some hot chocolate. They did have hot chocolate. It wasn't the best hot chocolate. I would rather have just Swiss Miss, be honest with you. Their hot chocolate was kind of bitter, but they put the foam on top and made it fancy, and it was about $12. And I think I got a muffin, a chocolate chip muffin, and it was like $18-20 for this. And I went back to the table and ate the muffin. And then I think, and I had already texted these people, hey, I'm down here. 10 o'clock rolled around. I said, hey guys, I'm down here. Whenever you're, don't be in a rush. If you're sleeping in, that's fine. I got here early. But if we still want to go out and get something to eat, I'm ready whenever you are. That was at 10 o'clock. 1:30. Actually, I think it was 1:45. I get a text. We're upstairs. And I'm like, texting on my phone. Upstairs where? Well, in the artist alley. Just come up the stairs. You'll see us. Like, okay. And what I didn't know was he had gotten a table. And he had been up there at a table. They had a place called Artist Alley. It was basically a hallway with a bunch of desks, or a bunch of tables, And there were artists on both sides, drawing artwork, drawing commissions and stuff. I don't think any of them were taking commissions. They already had commissions and were drawing them, which was kind of odd because you would think you could walk up and say, "Hey, you're doing commissions. Here's my character." No, nobody was doing that. Nobody was doing it. They were already had commissions, or maybe I was just too late. I mean, this was 1 o'clock in the afternoon now, 1:30, almost 2 o'clock in the afternoon now. And there's the people I was supposed to meet up with. Noticed I hadn't called them friends yet. Because, I'm sorry, friends wouldn't do this to you. And I walked up to the table and I said, I've been sitting down there since 10 o'clock. Nobody could come over and say, "Hey, we're up here." And one of the guys smarted off, but he did it under his breath, as if, "How dare I say anything? How dare you say, we got our tables and we're doing," and he muttered it under his breath. And I said, "Excuse me?" And he wouldn't repeat himself. He was a little short guy. You always hear about small man syndrome. This guy had it big time. Holy crap. Little guy, sarcastic little attitude. That was the other one. I ran into him at the 2 times I went to the fur meet. He was there. And the first time I ran into him, he looked at me and he goes, "Well, you're not going to stick around very long." And I'm like, what do you mean? I just walked in the door." He goes, "Yeah, you're just like everybody else. You're just going to come in here for a little bit and you're just going to leave." And I'm like, who chipped on your shoulder, Where's this attitude coming from? And it turns out he's like that with everybody, except his friends. He loves his friends dearly, but if anybody else tries to come in, he runs them off. And I was that new person that he was trying to run off, and it was working. It was working very well. And I just but I looked at the other guy and I was like, "I haven't eaten yet." And he was like, "Oh, well, we had breakfast this morning at 9 o'clock." And I was just, thanks for letting me know, since we were supposed to get together at 10 to go get a late breakfast. And I just kind of stopped. And I was like, "Okay, fine." And he was just sitting there, doing some artwork, just doodling while I was trying to talk to him. And his little friend piped up. He says, "Well, you're blocking the table now. There's people that might want to come by and see his artwork and buy some of his artwork." And I was just like, "You little shit." I so wanted to reach across that table and grab that little shit by the neck and drag his little ass outside. That was the first time I've ever wanted to do that to a complete stranger, almost a complete stranger. Little shit. And that was when I decided, this whole fur group, I need to just cut ties with these people. You got people that can't keep a date schedule, and this other guy being a complete asshole. And then other people, I don't know what their problem was. didn't want to talk to me anymore. And I was like, okay. So, anyways, there was another group of people that wanted to get together. They weren't the only ones, thank goodness, but this other group was wanting to get together much later. So I ended up finding something to eat. There were food trucks, but it was not a lot of food, and the lines were super long. And you get all the way up there, and they had this tiny little burger and some fries and a soda. You know, it's like, I need a meal. I'm freaking hungry. Give me 2 burgers. But the line was so long, people were getting kind of agitated, and I probably, at that point, as long as I had waited to get food, I probably could have had a whole pizza to myself. I was so hungry. Anyways, the other group of people that I had known online through FA and various chat rooms. I think this was back in MIRC days. Oh, I know what it was. I used to write stories. And I had written several stories, and these people really, really liked those stories. So they were kind of like, they were wanting to meet me because, hey, I want to meet the writer of these stories, and hey, I want to meet the artist that might want to draw these for my stories. That'd be great. And I tried contacting them, and they said, oh, we're in the dealer's den. I said, great, I'll be right there. So we can hang out, you know. You're trying to meet with people. You're trying to hang. Isn't that the whole point of going to a convention? You go there and you meet up with your friends and you hang out and you have fun. And so I go to the dealer's den. Ruckus was the artist that I ran into. And bless her heart, she looked like she hadn't slept in days. She looked so tired, bags under her eyes. But she did talk to me, and I talked about her story and her thing, and I was a real fan of the bad guy character. It was the wolf, kind of like a pirate kind of thing going on. Anyway, so I was trying to find the group that said, hey, we're in the dealer's den. So the dealer's den was big, but it had one way in and one way out. It was not that hard. And I knew what they looked like. So I was in there trying to find them. I couldn't find them. And after searching up and down the aisles for a while, I was like, and and of course, while I'm there, I ran into some, I saw some things that I wanted to buy, and I did some shopping. You're in the dealer's den, why not? So anyways, I made some purchases, and I texted them and said, hey, I'm in the dealer's den. Where are you? Oh, we're over at the game room now. There was a game room where they had like computers set up where you can go down there and you can play games. They had like Nintendo and game systems and stuff that you can go down there and... Great, where's the game room? Oh, it's in the basement. You have to go down the steps. I'm on the second floor where the dealer's den is. So now I have to come down like 2 or 3 flights of steps. I get down to the game room and they're not there. There's nobody there. There's the games, but there's nobody. There was like one person there playing. They were really focused on a one first-person shooter game, I guess it was. And I'm looking around going, well, so this is what was happening. They were telling me that they were here, but they didn't wait for me. They kept going. And then it was the game room, and then it was this other room, and then it was this other room. And I kept chasing them around the con trying to find them. And at one point I think the third time they did it, I said, okay. And I didn't message them after that. Because I went there, and of course they weren't there. And on the schedule, there was actually a thing I wanted to go to for writing. So I did that, and I went in there, and writers are all very quiet people, and they all keep to themselves. You go into a room full of writers, and it's dead silent. And I was just kind of laughing to myself, going, yeah, this figures. But the guys came in, and they did a thing, and they did a really good presentation, and you learned a few things. They talked about, you don't have a Mary Sue character in your story. If you want a good story, your character can't be this flawless person. You gotta, and I was like, well, good. I'm glad I'm not doing that. But it was a good little thing, and it lasted about an hour. And then there was the fursuit parade. So I got set up for the fursuit parade and set my camera up. That was funny. Has anybody ever gone to a fursuit parade? You put your camera down on a tripod and you're getting ready to set up, and some guy comes in front of you and sets his camera up right in front of you. And I was just like, hello, dude. Oh, I didn't see you there. Bullshit, you didn't see me there. So he lowered his camera down a little bit, and I raised mine up. I was like, well, okay. But all through the parade, he kept stepping in front of my camera to check his camera. And I'm just like, you know what? If you want to be in my video, I can just point the camera at you. And then post that up on YouTube. Go, look, everybody, this is my my fursuit parade video. This guy standing in front of me the whole time. But there were a lot of fursuiters. I recognized a lot of them. Waved, and then they were nice enough to reach out and give you a high five. And that was cool. So now it's getting late. I actually walked back to my hotel. My hotel was just like 2 blocks down the sidewalk. It wasn't too bad, but it wasn't a fast walk. It took about 10 minutes, 15 minutes to walk down there. And because my hotel had a nice restaurant. Very nice. It was, they could do steak, they could do burgers, they could do grilled chicken sandwiches, and it was good food. And so I went there and ordered some food, and this is like, 6, 7 o'clock at night, and I was like, well, I know I'm not going to go to a rave party. And so I said, well, I'll just go to the hotel room, call it an early night. I get up to my room, and the people that were trying to contact me, or they kept running away from me, contacted me. Or the one person contacted me and said, hey, we're having a room party, but I still wanted to meet you. I would come downstairs and say hi. And I'm like, I'm not there. I said, I can be. I said, I'll let you know when I get there. So I turned around, got out of my room, grabbed my key, and walked all the way down the steps, downstairs, and then walked. And this is dark at night, so I'm walking down the sidewalk, and I get back to the con hotel, and I messaged him and said, okay, I'm down here. It's great, I'm coming down the steps. Great, I'm finally going to meet this person. Turns out he's a teacher. He was about 24-ish, and it was a school teacher, which I kind of thought, if you're a school teacher, why were you making it so difficult for me to find you today? You knew I was trying to get up. Anyways, he came down the steps. There he was. Shook hands. Good to meet you. And basically an introduction. And then he said, well, the people upstairs are waiting for me. They're having a room party, and I don't want to keep them waiting too long. And I said, oh, okay. And I'm thinking, you literally came downstairs to say hi, nice to meet you, and then you're going to go back upstairs? And he did. He left. He went. I watched it walk away. And there's people all around. The fursuiters are, it's dark, but the fursuiters are out now because it's late. I guess everybody sleeps in. When I go to a strange place, I can't sleep in. I'm up at 8 o'clock in the morning. But it's like, 8 o'clock at night now, almost 9. And everybody's, they're going to the rave party, and they're running around and playing around in the hallway, in the lobby area and everything. And all the tables in the lobby area are full. People everywhere. And the person just went back up the steps and went back up to their room party. Literally took one look at me and said, I have to go back up to my room party. I'm like, oh, am I that charming? That kind of stings a little bit. And then this past weekend, it happened again. People saying they want to meet you, and then they disappear. And you're just left sitting there going, what do I do now? Do I wait for them? They said they wanted to meet me. And then, so I ended up going back to the hotel, like 9:30 now. Went to bed. Woke up the next morning. I think this was Saturday now. And no, this was Sunday. Sunday morning, I woke up and I thought, you know what? I think I'm done. I think I'm really done. I packed up all my stuff, went downstairs, checked out of the hotel, and they were like, "You're leaving so early?" I said, "I think I've had all the fun I'm allowed to have for one weekend." She laughed. And I got in my car and I drove home. I never heard from any of those people ever again. And then this past weekend, it was like it was happening again. That's when I said, this keeps happening. I keep trying, and people keep walking away. I haven't been to a FurCon since, and Furry Fiesta is the closest one, and I refuse to go. That was the worst experience. Now, the other FurCon was much better, but again, I went with somebody that genuinely wanted to see me. We actually spent time. We went to each other's hotel room. Didn't do anything, but we had a little fun online. We did a little voice chat with somebody else that we knew online. They couldn't make it, so we did a little voice chat with them. And they were like, "Oh, you two were together in the same room?" We're just chilling out before we go back downstairs. But that was fine. He was like, gosh, like 10. How much younger was he? I think he was like 10 or 12 years younger than I was. But he actually gave me a hug when he saw me. That was pretty special. I'll never forget that. And now he's since moved. He lives in Colorado somewhere. I run into him every once in a while. He follows me on TikTok, and so I see him every once in a while, and so we still keep in contact. We don't really. He actually told me about a boyfriend he had for a while in Colorado. I said, "Did you have fun?" He said, oh yeah, lots of fun times." He never would go into too much detail, which that's fine. I was just happy for him. Found somebody his own age, or close, closer. But that person had turned out to be in the in the closet and was not wanting to come out of the closet. And he was kind of like, okay, I can't. They ended up parting ways, but and that's what I mean by, this weekend, and it's like it's happening again. I go out on a leap of faith, and I still don't know. Of course, if I really wanted to know, I would have contacted that person and said, "What the heck happened to you? You told me to send you a friend request. I sent you a friend request. You didn't send anything back. What the heck?" And I probably should do that. But like I said last video, I don't know if I want to know the answer. I think it'll just piss me off more. To be fair, he did say that late at night. He was tired. Said it during his stream. And he even admitted himself that when he's tired and towards the end of the stream, he does a lot of things that he forgets that he does. But I sent the friend request. That should have triggered them. I would think that would trigger the memory, right? Oh my God, that's Devin. I told him to message me. Because my name on VR chat is the same name, the exact same name as it is in Twitch. And it's also the same name as on YouTube and TikTok. And I try to keep the same name. Even on Fur Affinity, it's still Devin. But I joined Fur Affinity way back when it was, in fact, what we know of Fur Affinity now was actually the second or third iteration of it. And I was in the first two parts. And when they moved to this, what they are now, everybody lost their passwords. Everybody lost their usernames. So I was able to put mine in, and I picked Devin and didn't have to pick any numbers because I was the only Devin. Which is kind of neat. And a lot of people on Fur Affinity. But like I say, I don't know what happened to that fur group. Was so weird. It was like, because I didn't come to the meeting, I must have switched sides or something. They didn't want to have anything to do with me after I didn't come to the last meeting. I was like, you know what? I'm tired of sitting on the floor. Have you gotten some chairs now? Are we going to have food? Did you get kicked out of another establishment? But that's neither here nor there. That was actually, I'm kind of glad that didn't pan out, because they were just a little There was a few people that were like, normal and nice, and we kept in, that was like one or two people. We kept in contact for a little bit, but then we kind of just drifted apart, how you do. But the other people acted like I had done something wrong. Like I wasn't, maybe they thought I wasn't good, they weren't good enough for me to. I was like, that wasn't it. I was tired of driving 2.5 hours, or 2 hours there and 2 hours home, but only to sit on the floor and not have, that was, that hurts. It hurts your back to sit on the floor like that. I mean, they didn't even, people are coming over. Go to Walmart and buy some chairs, or tell people, bring chairs. Because nobody was sure, and so nobody brought chairs. But I had a lot of people telling me, it's like, no, you need to get away from that. There's too much drama going on, and you've only been there for 2 meetings, and all that drama was going on during just those 2 meetings. Like, no, something's very wrong there. And I was kind of like with the other person that was afraid he was going to get outed and lose his job. I was like, this group needs to kind of settle down for a little bit. Just calm down. And yeah, I haven't, ever since the furry fiesta though, I haven't spoke to any of those people. Even the one that called me and said, hey, we're upstairs. I'm like, dude, why didn't you just tell me you got a table? At 10 o'clock, I could have done something else. There were other things going on I could have gone to go see. And that little smart Alec little bastard next to him. Dude, I almost came across that table. There was just no reason for him to open his mouth at all. I wasn't even talking to him. I was trying to ignore him, but the little smart Alec just kept muttering under his breath. You know how people, I don't know if you ever had anybody do that, where they say something sarcastic, but they try not to say it loud enough for you to hear, but you heard it. And they were trying to say it where you couldn't hear them. And it was just like, you little shit, I will come across this table and smack you. Thankfully, I've never run into anybody like that since. So, I don't know. Do I seem like a bad person? Why do those things keep happening? I think maybe that's why I'm doing these videos. Maybe I can get like maybe a third party, like maybe somebody out there, somebody right there. If I could not grab the camera and do that. But I think probably what I'll hear is people suck sometimes. And that's true. And some people are just forgetful to the extreme. I'm looking at you, who was supposed to meet me at Ferality. I haven't said the person's name. Yeah, because I didn't want to make this a call out video. Not for that person. The other person that lied about what I said, that even then I didn't call that person out. I didn't give their name. Except for one person. One person knows who it is. I mean, if you don't like me, that's fine, but you don't have to make excuses to hate me. You don't have to lie to find something to hate me. If you don't like me, just say so. And just say, I don't know, you just, you look funny, I'm going to go somewhere else. Like, okay. Looks like that guy in that fur group, that the fursuiter that pushed me out of the way. That was a clear sign that he didn't like me anymore. I wish I could have explained, look, you guys were having a lot of, personal drama, and I was making a 2-hour drive, and you guys couldn't keep it together. And I was like, dude, that's not fair for me. That's not fair to do that to me. I drive 2 hours and you can't, you're having a breakup. And I'm getting in the middle of it, and I'm like, no. So, yeah, I may not go to Plurality next year. Although I will say that got my VR legs, because I was in there, I was there all day waiting for that person to show up. And when I finally took this headset off, my eyes were burning. They were on fire. Like, oh my gosh. But now I can put the headset on in a couple hours and I'm okay. I don't get dizzy as much anymore. This world is a little weird because there's water. The city is flooded. And if you look at the water too long, the water is moving. But I'm not. And that starts to mess with my eyes. So I just try not to look at the water. Don't look down, look up. That's why I'm always looking up. And then you guys are getting a nice view behind me. There's a pretty tree and, stuff. And there's a busted car back there. And whoever did this world has no imagination, because every single car in here is the exact same car. And damaged in the exact same way. It's like, put some different cars in here. Different colors. Well, that's another talking head video. I didn't say thanks for watching last time. I just kind of ended the video. I never know when I'm going to end these videos, so a lot of times it's like, well, I've done a thing and I don't have an actual outro. So I just put a little title screen up. But if you made it this far, thanks for listening. It's good to get some of this stuff off your chest. And you never know who's going to be, looking at this. And somebody might be like, you're weird, you're crazy. Like, yeah. Or, I'm really sorry all that happened to you. Like, well, life sucks sometimes. I used to go around saying life sucks and then you die. That was a little morbid, so I stopped saying that. But it's true. Sometimes life just sucks. But you have to try to keep getting back up, but you also have to know when to stop, when to quit, when to put when to take the thing and put it down and say and walk away. You need to learn when to walk away. And having had 2 conventions be almost a complete disaster. I mean, if to be honest, if I wanted to go to a DJ set and sit down and just vegetate and listen to the music, I'll just listen to it on YouTube. There was no reason to go to Plurality to listen to that music. Well, and the giant wolf was a nice touch. And it's a name I can't remember. It starts with A. Ananon something, Animex, I don't remember. And then there was Daxon. I think there was 2 people that used the giant wolf. But anyway, it was good music, but I could have listened to that somewhere. I didn't have to pay the $35 to listen to music, And like I say, everybody talks about how all the laptops in Plurality that you could play games on. I couldn't get any of those to work. I didn't even know they were supposed to do anything. Half of them said error, and the other half you couldn't click on them. And that was Thursday, Friday. I didn't go Saturday. And then Sunday, I didn't go Monday, but I went Tuesday. The whole time I was there, I couldn't get those laptops to do anything. And they did have the parkour world, but apparently I can't jump to save my life. That's all I got. And I was always falling off the edge. And then I had to be careful, like in the main area. They had all these. Whenever there's like floaters floating around in the air, that gets me. I start getting dizzy and the motion sickness kicks in. So they really need to tone down on some of that stuff. Just we don't need to have floaters. We don't need to have fireflies and little glowy bits floating through the air. Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. They don't need to be there. Just the trees and the scenery were more than enough. Maybe some more lighting. It was very, very dark. But anyways, I think I'm going to end this video here. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. And maybe I'll see you in the comments. Or I do have a Discord. Sort of. See, when I was streaming, and all that stuff happened, I kind of deleted the Discord, but then I kind of went back and opened it back up. There's just a general chat. That's it. There's nothing else there. But if you find my Discord, you're welcome to post a little hello. And I'm always in Twitch somewhere. I'm fixing to go to Snowy Fluff's stream and Ghost Fox, Mudbug, Skullbar. There's some I can't remember. I can't get their names right. But I'm floating around. You see me, say hi. And anyways, thanks for listening. And you guys have a good day.